Hello, my name is Daniel Gray. I am your prophet du jour. It just dawned on me. I actually had to check the calendar. Today actually is Friday. I don't know why I thought today was Wednesday, but I actually had it in my mind that today was Wednesday, and I just couldn't get my mind out of that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And we were talking about the 3 stages of jihad, and I guess I blew that. But again, this guy, he's really awesome. His name, I think, I still don't see his name here, but this guy's on the ball, and I would advise you to go and listen to a few of his videos. Actually, just look for 3 stages of jihad, or you could go to my Facebook page, Daniel Gray, and you can see he's on my blog. Oh my God! Now they're not going to let me back onto Facebook. I thought I was going to have to. Let's see what in the world is going on here. Daniel Gray is on Facebook. To connect with Daniel, sign up for Facebook today. Well, isn't that just cheery? I want to log in. Let me into Facebook. We all have so many passwords. It's kind of hard to keep track of. Unless you have a system. You guys probably have a system. I mean, I got kind of a system, but sometimes what happens is I just kind of forget. Oh, okay. Yeah. This is kind of mind-blowing. And I don't know if this is true. This comes from Red Flag, a blog called Red Flag. And headline is, your mouth will be hanging open by the end of this video. Middle East report translated declares that Barack Hussein Obama is a Muslim terrorist. Now, I know that sounds absolutely crazy. And when I first listened to this in preparation of the show, I thought, this isn't going to get on the show. But, you got to listen to what this guy has to say. And it'll tell you early on in this video who this guy is. He was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and he converted. He realized that what the Muslim Brotherhood was all about was just sort of nefarious and was promoting radical Islam. And so this guy converted, and he speaks really good English, and he also speaks Farsi. But he was in the Middle East recently. I think he was in Lebanon, but he's in contact with people that are in contact with very important people around the region of the Middle East. And to my mind, this guy sounds very credible. And you can decide for yourself whether or not you find this credible. But a lot of what this guy has to say in this video is stuff that's been out there on the internet. And it's kind of interesting that things that are out in the internet oftentimes eventually make their way to the mainstream media. And this is something that I think you're going to find really interesting. And basically what this has to do with is President Obama's half-brother is involved with the Muslim Brotherhood as far as raising funds for the Muslim Brotherhood. And his brother, Barack Obama's brother, half-brother, they both share the same father, is part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's been well documented. I mean, you can go out there. George Obama is his name, and I think that's his name, or is that the other brother? All right, anyways, this video is definitely worth our time. All right, take it away, Mr. President, because we're going to hear from the president a little bit too.
All right, it's the Savage Nation. We're all asking why Obama is silent on the interracial violence in America, why he's silent on the killing and the killing of Christians in Egypt. And an article came out the other day in WorldNet Daily saying Obama's brother linked to Muslim Brotherhood. Report says Malik directs radical Islamic movement's investments. And it's a report based upon reports by Walid Shobat, who says that he read a speech in Arabic on Egyptian television. Joining us now is Walid Shobat, former Muslim Brotherhood member, former PLO member, now a peace activist. He wrote a book called The Case for Islamophobia. Walid, welcome back to the Savage Nation. This is a very serious...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Walid. In a news report on Egyptian television of a Gabali speech translated by researcher Walid Shobat, a former PLO organization operative, Gabali said she would like to inform the American people that their president's brother Obama is one of the architects of the major investments of the Muslim Brotherhood. Is that what she said?
Yes, this is the former chancellor of the Constitutional Court of Egypt, and she's also the current advisor to the Constitutional Court of Egypt. She's not a small cookie. Her name is Tahani al-Jabali. She stated that the reason the United States cannot fight the international organization of the Muslim Brotherhood is because the brother of U.S. President Barack Obama is the architect of the investments for the International Organization for the Muslim Brotherhood, which brings us back to the issue we discussed on your show before, Malik Obama. She's possibly talking about Malik Obama. She didn't give the name, but she said this is a nugget for the American people, what they do not know. She wants to open the books in the courts. She is, addressing the issues that Americans do not understand. She says the American government will not stop us. We need to open the files and begin court sessions. The Obama administration cannot stop us. They're holding ground. In fact, it's not just in a speech she gave. It's in several interviews.
She wants to open the files in Egypt to show how this government collaborated with the terrorists? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. She's saying that the government collaborated with the terrorists. You look at Benghazi, things that you've never heard in this country. It's all over, certainly it's the Middle East. In the Benghazi case, even there is a docket number 3790 against Morsi for involvement with terrorism in Libya and Egypt. In fact, even the Libyan government states that Mohammed Morsi was involved in Benghazi. When you look at what the Americans are charging regarding Benghazi, there's only one Libyan, Khattala, a small fry. They're not addressing any of the Egyptian operatives. It was the case in Nasser City terror cell that was busted in Egypt, in which a Libyan was killed. His name, by Reuters, was linked to the case in Benghazi. But
Walid, I believe every word you say, by the way, but what you're saying tonight is more shocking than anything you've ever said before. You are saying that Obama's half-brother, Malik Obama, is what, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, or what?
It's worse. Malik Obama, as we stated before, with clear evidence from photos, from events, from numerous articles from the Middle East, everything is disclosed. He works for the Sudanese government. He's an employee of the Sudanese government. He works right under Omar al-Bashir. Mohammed Sarwar is his main boss. He is the executive director of the Islamic Dawah Organization of Sudan. Sudan, her state. It is illegal what he is doing. He is a U.S. resident. He runs a compound of polygamy in Kogelo, Kenya. He runs a 501c3. Louis Lerner is involved in this whole affair. The IRS is involved in this whole affair. He was granted a 501c3 illegally. He was, retroactive when it was illegal. He was lying the whole time, raising funds from the United States.
Walid, you detailed all of these allegations in a 22-page investigative report entitled New IRS Scandal, Islamic Extremism and Sex Slaves. Report reveals Obama's relatives run charities of deceit. What is your website so people can decide for themselves?
Shoebat.com, just as you spell the word shoe, S-H-O-E, and the word bat, B-A-T, like baseball bat, S-H-O-E-B-A-T.com.
Okay, so Malik Obama and Sarah Obama raised money in the United States as the heads of foundations claiming to be charities. The IRS granted one of them tax-deductible status, retroactively going back to 2008. And then you say there are two IRS-approved 501c3 organizations operating in the U.S. by Obama's half-brother and step-grandmother in Kenya. But what does that have to do with the president? Remember, Jimmy Carter had a crazy brother. Well, you couldn't blame Jimmy Carter, as bad a president as he was, of being his brother. So should we say there's a linkage between the brothers?
Well, first we have to prove the link between Obama and the IRS. However, the IRS is linked to Malik Obama and his operation. So there's no way to refute that involvement. How did the IRS scandal begin? It has to have been all these meetings with President Obama, in which it was in closed doors, to basically begin to attack the Tea Parties and all these other things. So that whole issue is involved. Barack Hussein Obama, the president, is very close, tightly knit with the family. In fact, it's been revealed in Al Jazeera television, in which his cousin, Musa Ismail Obama, clearly said the communication is from his uncle, Saeed Obama, and the family in Kogelo in Kenya. And then you have Saeed Obama and all this family are seen with the Wahhabists, are raising funds to the most virulent Wahhabi schools in Saudi Arabia, Al-Qura University. Hello, the Mama Sara Fund, his grandmother's fund, is going to recruit Wahhabi to Wahhabi schools from Africa. Well, we know what madrasa is. This is madrasa. The number one terror madrasa in the world is Al-Qura University. It was founded by Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, the founder and the godfather of Wahhabism. We're talking about a serious issue here. We're talking about Sudan, and his brother Malik Obama is an employee of Sudan, executive director of the Islamic Dawah Organization. You know, you have Omar al-Bashir wanted on 7 counts in the International Criminal Court, talking about Syria.
Okay, but I hear you, and I don't deny it, but let's start from the top. Is Obama his brother's keeper? Are there legitimate links between the president and his renegade brother? Is it fair to draw conclusions about Obama from what his brother does or doesn't do?
Well, absolutely yes, because the president is responsible for what happens in the IRS scandal. He's responsible, especially when he's always meeting with his brother in the White House. How did he get his residency? How is he getting the IRS status? How is he getting all these favors illegally? It had to have been President Obama. I mean, I can't even apply for those kind of things. You can't. How could Malik Obama? Well, it has to be the last name Obama. It has to be related to Obama. It has to be related to the president.
Waleed, look, you're a guy who's worked in such deep, dangerous situations, both as a terrorist and an anti-terrorist, that you know the inner workings of these things much better than I do. I'm simply kind of almost an ingenue when it comes to these things. I can only imagine what you've had to live through, but I do watch an awful lot of television. When I watch the TV show Homeland.
Me too.
Have you ever seen that show about a U.S. congressman who had been brainwashed and converted to Islam secretly and becomes a congressman, and he's really working for the other side? Are you implying that that's what we have here?
Well, we have to look at Obama's allegiances. We have to look at what's happening. Americans need to see what's happening. Libya is gone, amok. You have Egypt with President Obama supporting the Muslim Brotherhood, going to Egypt and giving a historic speech in support even of the Muslim Brotherhood when he went there, wanting them to be part of the electorate process because it's part of democracy, We see the Syrian situation in which the Free Syrian Army are carrying out massacres. We see the situation in Egypt. The entire Middle East is in chaos. It is definitely Obama's full support to the Islamist cause. So Obama is supporting the Islamist cause in the Middle East. It's very obvious. He has a brother named George Obama. He doesn't even care about George Obama. In fact, even in the documentary, nobody even disclosed why he doesn't care about George Obama. The truth is, George Obama, his mother is Otieno. She's a Christian who lives in the U.S. He doesn't care about the Christian side of his family. He cares very much to the Muslim side of his family. He's very much sympathetic to the Muslims, to the Islamic cause as well. It's evident from his own family.
So what are you saying? I mean, if we look at the big picture here, you're saying something very powerful here, which is that he's linked, that his brother's linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, and that Barack Obama is supporting them with U.S. tax dollars. Therefore, you're saying he's a secret agent of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, he's sympathetic to the Muslim Brotherhood, and I've always argued that Obama, in my view, is the taboo that can never be discussed in America. He is very much sympathetic to his Islamic roots. Obama is very likely to be a Muslim. So, this is something we are not allowed to talk about all of a sudden. The problem in American media is that, you can go to Egypt and find more about what goes on than you can find in your own hometown in this country.
Yes, there's more freedom of the press in Egypt right now than in this lockdown nation of ours, where we have an absolute yellow journalistic press at work around the clock. And if anyone disagrees with them, they're castigated. I understand how hard it is because I work through this mess on a daily basis, Waleed. So having said all of this, having exposed this from, now remember, you're saying that you heard all of this in Arabic on Egyptian television when Gabali said that her country will not allow any conspiracy against the Egyptian state. And she said that they're trying to destroy the nation. Why would Obama want to destroy Egypt?
Well, obviously, he wants the takeover of Egypt by the Muslim Brotherhood, because that's where his sympathies lie. The Muslim Brotherhood is the umbrella organization for Al-Qaeda, for Hamas, for the Islamist movement.
So it's actually worse than I fear on my worst nights and the darkest moments. It's much worse.
It is much.
But Waleed, if you're saying this, and it was published the other day, and the Egyptians are saying it, how could our intelligence agencies not understand this? Or have they all been castrated by Obama? Is it that far gone that they've all been castrated?
Well, obviously. I mean, how many Americans know that one of the operatives who's suspect in Benghazi has been trained by the United States Air Force? Tariq Taha Abu al-Azm, I got the minutes from the articles of the police investigation in Egypt. You have a mastermind who's suspected in Benghazi, have been trained by the Air Force. Hello, this is very embarrassing to the Obama administration, embarrassing for the government. You had the same case before, Ali Muhammad. Who talks about him? Ali Muhammad was a CIA agent, a double agent, working for Al-Qaeda. He was the first one to establish the Al-Qaeda manual. He was Egyptian, the same case as this Abu al-Azm. He was found, caught, guilty, sentenced but never tried but never sentenced. Hello, what happened to that man? Ali Muhammad, the same case.
Well, Waleed, look, this is a major league expose, and I don't know, have you had much play with this in the media? Has anyone else had you on their show?
Well, you know you're number one. You care. There's others who do care, but the major media doesn't care. However, even the case of Obama's brother, it was on CNN Arabic, but not CNN English. Can you understand that? CNN the Arabic talks about Obama's brother being linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, but CNN in English never mentions a word about it. So the media is controlled by the liberals, by the institution. They make us pay attention to what is happening in Syria so we can forget about what's happening in Egypt and in Benghazi. If Obama really cares about slaughter in Syria, why doesn't he care about the genocide in Sudan? There is a much bigger genocide in Sudan.
Well, that's another topic, and I'd like to, when we come back from the break, Waleed, ask you your opinion on the alleged gas attack in Syria, whether it actually occurred, whether it's staged, and who actually may have released the gas, because I have no way to believe either side there. They're both so terrible. I'll be right back. We're speaking with Waleed Shobat, former PLO member, former Muslim Brotherhood member, now a peace activist. His book is The Case for Islamophobia. His website is shobat.com. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation.
Swinging into the last phase,
last
segment of the hour here on the Savage Nation.
Oh, I guess he's still on.
We're dealing with a very serious allegation from a very serious man. Obama's brother linked to Muslim Brotherhood. Report says Malik directs radical Islamic movement's investments. It was in the WorldNet Daily the other day. I'll read the two paragraphs, then we'll go back to Waleed Shobat. President Obama's half-brother in Kenya could cause the White House more headaches over new evidence linking him to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and establishing that controversial IRS supervisor Lois Lerner signed his tax-exempt approval letter. Malik Obama's oversight of the Muslim Brotherhood's international investments is one reason for the Obama administration's support of the Muslim Brotherhood, according to an Egyptian report citing the Vice President of the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt, Hani al-Gabali. Waleed Shobat, welcome back to the Savage Nation.
Thank you.
Nothing has come of this article. It was written by the very bright Jerome R. Corsi on WorldNet Daily. They quote you, where they say that you listened to the Gabali speech in Arabic from Egypt, and she was vehement and adamant that the president's brother is one of the architects of the major investments of the Muslim Brotherhood. So what happens now if no one's paying attention?
Well, what happens now is as usual. It's always redirecting the attention of the American people to something else. Now we are into Syria.
Okay, so is this gas attack a fake? Is it a fake event, or is it real?
Which event?
The alleged gassing of the civilians in Syria. Are those real corpses? Were they staged, and who did it?
Well, it's difficult to tell in this case. We have to wait. But let me bring the previous case. What happened to the previous case? I've examined even videos that we obtained. Americans don't even see these things. How the Free Syrian Army were able to have weapons cache of Scuds, tanks, SAM-7 rockets, all on video. In fact, even firing Scuds on video, and even having chemical rockets on video. Hello, you know, it is easy for the Free Syrian Army to stage. The Khan al-Assad situation was proven to be a fraud. It was proven to be false. If it is true that in the previous event, the chemical attack came from Bashar al-Assad's army, why is it that in every single testimony from the victims themselves, it showed that it was the Free Syrian Army that lobbed that? How would that be strategically smart for Bashar al-Assad to be carrying out a chemical warfare in Syria when he knows it's exactly what the other side is looking for? So
not only that, but why would he carry it out the very week that the UN inspectors are on the ground? It makes no sense to me.
And Assad was winning in the war.
It actually also makes no sense to me that Mohammed Morsi would be asking for the blind sheikh just days before Benghazi attack and right after the Benghazi attack. How does that fit strategically from a head of state of Egypt to be asking for the blind sheikh after Americans were killed in Benghazi? The Middle East doesn't make much sense, but we have to look at the source. Mohammed Morsi is an Islamist. Bashar al-Assad is not an Islamist. It doesn't serve him to do this kind of thing. The Christian community in Syria loves Bashar al-Assad. The people love Bashar al-Assad. The Russians love Putin. It's in America that we have the problem. We don't love Barack Hussein Obama. We can't stand him. He is on the side of the enemy. It behooves me that these days I'm looking towards Russia. I'm looking towards Putin. I'm looking towards Bashar al-Assad. And I lost every single hope that is left in my soul to trust this government that I'm living under.
Unbelievable. I can't add to that, nor can I subtract from that. I know that you speak a very complicated Arabic. You speak English. How many other languages, Waleed, do you speak?
Just English and Arabic.
Just English and Arabic.
That's all.
Well, I know that you choose your words very carefully, and I would think that if we translated what you just said, there's an entire declaration in that statement. What is so heavy on my heart right now, and what's pregnant in my mind, is where the hell are the Republicans in all of this?
Well, that's a good question. And I wonder myself, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East that we have no idea what the genesis is or the motivation. I mean, we're looking at the Middle East, even though now we have a lot more information than we ever had before. But what really is going on in the Middle East, we're merely looking at the shadows on the wall. We're not looking into the light necessarily to know what's going on. I mean, I feel confident that we know enough about the Middle East to understand the basics. And that is, Islam hates Christians, and Islam is not only a religion, but it's a government. It's a theocracy, and they want to run the whole world. I think we, of reason, can understand that is the motivation for many in the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda and the other terrorist groups in the region. But it's really serious. And another thing that's been on the internet, and of course I have no way of substantiating this, but back in what Shobat was talking about Egypt, he mentioned that Egypt now is in the process of trying Mohammed Morsi. Mohammed Morsi was the Muslim Brotherhood member that got elected to represent Egypt. He got elected president. And after a year in office, the Egyptian military threw Morsi out of office, and then he was under arrest. And Egypt is going to try Mohammed Morsi for the crimes that he committed against the Egyptian people in just 1 year. And again, Mohammed Morsi is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. But the other story that I was mentioning that's been out there and hasn't been substantiated, and I believe we reported on it one time, there are accusations coming out of Egypt that the Obama administration was bribing the Muslim Brotherhood government under Mohammed Morsi during the time that he was the president, roughly that year that he was president. They're saying that the Obama administration was giving money, funneling money to Muslim Brotherhood leaders, like a lot of money. Like one of the top guys in Mohammed Morsi's government was getting something like $600,000 a year. So these were big dollar amounts. But at any rate, they're accusing President Obama personally of being involved with bribing the Muslim Brotherhood and aiding the Muslim Brotherhood. Not only aiding the Muslim Brotherhood after they got elected, which you could say, well, you know, we do that to any government to keep stable governments is in our strategic interest. But it looks like, the accusations have been made that President Obama actually had people on the ground and resources available in Egypt during the election, after the original overthrow of the Egyptian government. And then Morsi came in, but they're making the accusation that the Obama administration was actually involved in that election roughly a year and a half ago, after the Egyptian government had toppled. But at any rate, that's a hell of an accusation to make, that our government. But see, it makes total sense though, when you think about it. I mean, we see the Middle East and other places as sort of, they're fictional. They're in our minds. I mean, we hear the reports, we make connections with some of the faces, but we're not on the ground. It's not opaque. We can't really see what the hell's going on. And I'll remind you that during the so-called Arab Spring, that our very own ACL, the union, ACL-CIO, and the Service Employees International Union, SEIU union, that they had representation in the Middle East during the Arab Spring. They were on the ground in Libya. They were on the ground in Egypt. They were involved. Our very own unions have people on the ground as we speak in countries all across the world. But primarily, they were on the ground in Egypt, in Libya, in particular. I know those two for sure. And they were basically being community organizers, and they were helping with campaigns and God knows what else. I mean, why would two of our major unions, AFL-CIO and SEIU union, want to have a presence in Egypt and Lebanon during the Arab Spring? That's the question you have to ask yourself. So I use this example to illustrate that there's a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East that we're not privy to. And that's why asking the question, begging the question, what in the world was the mission of the CIA in Benghazi on 9/11 last year? What were they doing there? Were they buying arms? Were they collecting arms to give to the freedom fighters in Syria? What in the world was going on? What was their mission? And the biggest fear of all is that, in fact, the Obama administration may have been, this is the suspicion, this is the allegation, that the Obama administration may very well have been selling surface-to-air missiles to terrorist organizations, that they had a sort of a backdoor arms business going on in Benghazi, and that somehow that went awry. And then there's a false flag out there that the Obama administration wanted our ambassador Chris Stevens to get kidnapped in Benghazi so that Obama could look like the knight on the white horse in shining armor and come in and save Chris Stevens from the rascally old radical Islamist. And I mean that's a hell of a story, and it's out there, and it may or not be true, but it's worth, I think, mention. Let's see here. Kind of on the same vein of President Obama's brother being involved with the Muslim Brotherhood, this is kind of a goofy damn story. This story I got from the right scoop. I never seen this before. But it says Obama caught in another lie as Jay Carney, that's the spokesperson for the president, tries to spin his way out of it. Now, Jay Carney, this was yesterday, was asked today by Fox News reporter Ed Henry about the new revelation that Obama stayed with his uncle Omar when he was at Harvard. Originally, the White House said Obama had never met him. So how did the White House get it wrong? Here's Ed Henry. He's actually a reporter with Fox, who basically said, so we're supposed to believe that instead of asking Obama if he had ever met with his uncle, they just looked at his book and concluded there was no evidence he had ever met with him and reported that to the press. They believe we're stupid enough to believe that. Come on, man. Obama lied, as he does about everything. Lie, 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 lie. That's all he does. And thanks to his lies about Obamacare, everyone knows it. Obama lied. And his presidency has died. But this is just kind of a nice little interchange that points out that this Obama administration, they lie about everything. And that's the problem with the compulsive liar. They can't remember who they told what lie. And they can't remember when they told the truth or when they told the lie, but they get to the point where they reflexively lie about everything, and they don't really need to be. So why would the president lie? He first lied. He said, well, he didn't know his uncle. And then he had to walk that back. Said he did know his uncle, but he hadn't seen him. And then, I found out that he had seen him, and that, in fact, somewhere back during his college days, he actually lived with this uncle. And unless this uncle is somehow a nefarious person, another relative involved with the Muslim Brotherhood, the president he had no reason to lie. And even if his uncle was a crazy radical when Obama was going to school in the 70s, he could have said, hey, man, I need a cheap place to stay. He was family. I didn't know anything about his political beliefs. Come on, President Obama. You're the smartest guy in the world, and you got to know it's better to just come clean and tell the truth than to try to put a lie out there and try to resuscitate it when it comes under scrutiny. So let's give this a listen. It's Jay Carney, who, by the way, like I said, is the president's spokesperson, and this guy from Fox, Ed Henry. All right, Ed, take it away.
Meantime, the White House press briefing, well, guess what? It just wrapped. Jay Carney answering questions about the revelations.
Oops.
With an uncle while in law school, despite previous claims that he had no record of the two ever meeting. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry, fresh from the briefing room. All right, Ed, so this report came out right before you went into that briefing room. You asked the question, what's the reasoning for it?
Well, Gretchen, we're trying to figure it out. Jay Carney says that they had made a mistake inside the White House about the nature of this relationship with the uncle back in 2011, so they decided they wanted to clear why it's relevant now is this uncle, Omar Obama, lives in the Boston area and was in an immigration court this week, threatened with deportation to Kenya. He is now staying here, though, we're told. He's gotten asylum and is staying here. But the question was that back in 2011, the Boston Globe, when this first sort of came about as a case, asked the White House what was the nature of the relationship. Back then, the White House said there was no record of the two ever meeting, the president and his uncle. Now they're saying, actually, since details came out in immigration court this week, they lived together briefly when the president was in Massachusetts for law school at Harvard University. They lived together for about 3 weeks at that time, many years ago. Here's Jay Carney a few moments ago.
What I can tell you, Ed, and thank you for the question, is that back when this arose, folks looked at the record, including the president's book, and there was no evidence that they had met. There was, that was what was conveyed. Nobody spoke to the president. When Omar Obama said the other day, and there were reports that he had said the other day that President Obama, back when he was a law school student, had stayed with him in Cambridge, I thought it was the right thing to do to go ask him. Nobody had asked him in the past, and the president said that he, in fact, had met Omar Obama when he moved to Cambridge for law school, and that he stayed with him for a brief period of time until the president's apartment was ready.
So bottom line is Jay Carney saying that back in 2011, when they first got this question, they told the Boston Globe that the two had never met because they had failed to ask the president directly. They say that now some of these details came out in court this week. They cleared it up. They asked the president directly. They're trying to correct the record. By the way, for the record, they're also saying that the president played no role in his immigration case at all, Chris.
Well, it's very interesting, and yet another question Jay Carney probably didn't want to get.
No role, yeah, right. But, you know, the thing is, there's a unspoken agreement or compact with all progressive socialists within the ranks of the government or the press corps that you never want to put this president in a bad light. They're not going to do their duty as a journalist and try and find any kind of story they can, any kind of dirt on this president. That's just not going to happen. And as far as the people in the media or the people out there at immigration, they're probably thinking the same thing. You know, this guy, he's an uncle of President Obama. You know, we're going to give him every benefit of the doubt. We're going to stretch every rule because this would give us points with the president. I mean, the president is going to call up the director, I guess it'd be Homeland Security who handles our immigration. Well, whoever handles the immigration, the president probably isn't going to call him up on the phone or send him an email and say, hey, you know, I'd really appreciate it if you give my uncle the no shakedown treatment and give him his immigration rights to the U.S. I mean, he's not going to do that. He's not going to create an electronic trail for people to follow, but it's implicit in the mindset of a progressive socialist to help the Obama administration and President Obama personally wherever you can. All right, and it wasn't really that big of a lie, but gee whiz. And what kind of an excuse is that? Jay Carney said, well, no one wanted to talk to the president about his uncle, and we pretty much felt that whatever was in Obama's book that was ghostwritten was pretty much the fact and should be the information that we go on. I mean, really? Really? I mean, it's a pretty good excuse, but we're sure expected to believe a lot with this administration, aren't we? He doesn't know about anything. He finds out about stuff going wrong in his government from the TV just like we do. I mean, really, we have a lot of responsibility with the Obama administration to just believe a lot of stuff that doesn't seem very believable. All right, let's see here. Oh, yeah, I'll do this story. See, this to me demonstrates just how progressive socialists think. I mean, they take every single opportunity they have to promote their cause, man. And one of their top 5 mouthpieces of the progressive socialist movement is Robert Reich. And I wrote here that Robert Reich uses the loss of Nelson Mandela to promote progressive socialism, aka social justice. And here's what Robert Reich writes about on the event of the loss of Nelson Mandela. He says, "The world desperately needs heroes, those who lead without excessive ego, unlike our president, who sacrifice without seeking martyrdom, who show the way without condensation, who honor the best in us without sharing the worst in us, who exemplify what leadership can be and what a nation can accomplish, and from whose life we learn and relearn that social progress is not a pipe dream, but the essence of what humans must embrace. Nelson Mandela was such a hero and such a leader. The world grieves his loss and remembers his greatness." So in basic, he's saying that, yeah, Nelson Mandela is one of our own, and he's for social justice. And they're using this man's death as an opportunity to raise the flag of progressive socialism. And I don't know why, I just think it's unbefitting someone of Robert Reich's stature. But yet, that's what it's all about. This is a progressive socialist movement, and they're taught by Saul Alinsky's and others to take every opportunity to promote your cause and to degrade your opposition. So, I mean, I shouldn't be so amazed. No, I'm not amazed. I find it very unattractive. And then the other thing, too, talking about what makes a leader. I mean, President Barack Obama is nothing like what Robert Reich calls a great leader. If you listen to these words, to honor the best in us without shaming the worst in us. I mean, President Obama is constantly shaming Republicans and vilifying their motives. And he goes on to say, now, is this President Obama? Does he exemplify what leadership can be and what a nation can accomplish, and from whose life we learn and relearn what social progress is all about? No, President Obama is nothing like that. I mean, he's mean-spirited, vindictive. Just kind of weird. And, all right, you're listening to the Trailer Park Prophet. My name is Daniel Gray. We're broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio. And this is Local Friday. I thought today was Wednesday. I don't know how I got that in my mind, but I did. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Let's see. Ooh, wish I had time to do that. Oh wait, no system yet for exchange payment. I mean, this story. Let's do a little bit of this story. This is unbelievable. I mean, we've heard about all the things that are wrong with Obamacare. The website doesn't work. They've had to postpone a lot of the implementation of Obamacare because it's not ready, or they're worried about the next upcoming election. And then there's this news that the new Obamacare bombshell, and this is from RPT, that no system yet for exchange payment. So they never figured out. Let's see, maybe that's 8 minutes long. I don't want to listen to that. But basically what it said is that in the website they didn't put any code in there for them to be able to accept payment for these brand new Obamacare insurance policies. I mean, is that is that really what you get from government? I mean, they're not even smart enough to realize that they need money. I mean, they just think money falls from the sky or something, or money's already there, but they didn't set up a way to receive money from people. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And this is an interesting video too. You might want to go see this one. It's realclearpolitics.com. And there's a representative who is, his name is Bob Goodlatte, and there's a professor there named Professor Turley, and he's a constitutional professor, and we could do this. This would probably be worth your time to listen to. But now, just let me tell you what happened. Basically, you know, we've talked a lot about how the president has been acting unilaterally and not going through the Congress. He did that with the what do they call those guys? The Dreamers, the kids here that are illegally here through no fault of their own. Their folks brought them here, the Dreamers Act. So the president did that by executive fiat. And then the president did all those delays within Obamacare, as an example. He delayed the employer mandate, and he just did something with the individual mandate. But anyway, he's acting like a king, like an emperor. And it's my understanding of the law that once the law is passed, if those dates are in there, you got to implement things. You got to do what the law says. And if you don't want to do what the law has to do, then you have to go to Congress and change the law. But this Professor Tooley was quizzed in front of this committee hearing yesterday, and he was asked a question, I believe, by Trey Gowdy, Senator Trey Gowdy. Basically was saying that President Obama has been doing all these things, changes to the law by executive fiat, and Senator Trey Gowdy was kind of concerned and asked this Professor Turley, well, isn't this setting up a precedent? You know, how could this, where's the remedy for the violation of the law? And it seems as though that we have one big gaping hole in our Constitution, in that if you believe this Professor Turley, that there's really no way for Congress or the taxpayers to seek relief against an executive that's out of control, except for impeachment or censuring. But, you know, that's would be a really dramatic thing to try and do, and probably not really good for the country. Although, if Obama's numbers keep dropping like they are, maybe impeachment is a viable alternative and could be supported by the majority of the American people. But this guy, he brings up an interesting point in that there's no way for Congress to seek relief. Although I kind of disagree with him. I thought there was a way that you could get the Congress in some form of fashion before the courts. But, you know, I'm not a legal scholar, obviously, and I guess maybe that's not the case. But then what was interesting in this video is Trey Gowdy said, well, then what prevents this president from recognizing the presidential election in 2016 and just say, well, you know what, that election law is a good law, but it has some problems, and I have a lot more work to do, and so President Obama decides to ignore the election law and not allow the new president to sit for office. And that was sort of the nuts and bolts of what Senator Trey Gowdy was asking this Professor Turley. And basically, the professor was kind of stymied. He didn't really know what to say, which obviously is sort of unsettling. I was laughing. I was watching the protesters at these fast food restaurants, and we reported on Wednesday how a lot of them were actually paid to protest professional protesters. And, you know, I got to thinking, I was looking at these pictures of paid union protesters out in front of McDonald's, and all of these paid union protesters were overweight. And I thought how ironic it was that they're protesting for higher wages for Obama workers, and yet here they are representing representing the McDonald's workers, and they're a bunch of fatties. And I was just imagining all my years of being in fast food restaurants and having an opportunity while waiting for my order to preview the staff of whatever fast food restaurant I was in. And remarkably, I think there is a lot of overweight people that work at McDonald's, which totally goes against the notion that McDonald's workers aren't receiving a livable wage. You know, I was thinking about all of that and how it all mixed up in a blender of ideas. And so I came to the conclusion that low minimum wages help fight obesity. Because if people really are in a situation where they don't have a livable wage, well, then they would probably have to cut their calorie intake. But you know, here, my friend Justice, he brings up a real good point. And we brought this up before, but if whatever government subdivision, Congress or a city or a state decides that they're going to raise the minimum wage on fast food workers to $15, which is generally the number they're using, you're going to get what you have right here in front of me here. And it's basically a touch tone screen, much like the McDonald's person that greets you at the counter uses, and you just touch into the screen what you want, swipe your card, get your receipt, and go stand in line. And so all those front counter people are expendable, and they're not going to get $15 to stand there and take your McDonald's order. So all of those jobs are going to be gone. And that's the problem with this notion of government being best positioned to decide what workers should make. It just shows you just how ridiculous things get, and that there are actual limits to how much business can afford to pay for labor. And I reported about a year ago that the average McDonald's employee makes $2,500 a year for McDonald's. And I know that sounds ridiculously low, but those are the numbers that I saw, and they came from a fairly reliable source. But if you're going to have to raise their wages from $9, $8, what they're making now, to $15, then they're going to become a net liability to the corporation, and they're going to get replaced by technology. I mean, that's just how things work in the real world. And most people in government, they really have no clue about how to run a business. They don't understand how difficult it is. Let's see. Oh, here's trouble in Colorado. And this is getting a little notoriety. And again, this is another Obamacare story. And there's stories like this every day about various state healthcare exchanges that are having trouble on one front or another with implementing Obamacare. Either it's costing too much, or it's just one big. Oh, did you see this too? This is really a true story. And it came out, and I don't know that I have the story in front of me, but I want to make sure to mention this to you since I'm talking about Obamacare again. And this I got from CBS News, and it was that the Obama administration was offered by one of the big computer giants to put together the Obamacare website for free. For free. It was on CBS. And the Obama administration turned it down. And now we elect these people to be good stewards of our economy, our government, and our environment. Now, how in the hell would you explain turning down free stuff for the people of the United States of America? And free stuff from a big, prominent computer company. And I guess the answer to the question is the reason that Obama didn't want to get something free for the people was because he wanted to make sure that United Healthcare got the bulk of the money to put together a $600 million website that doesn't work, and then United Healthcare, through its subsidiaries, got even more work to fix the mess they already made. Now, my guess is that since United Healthcare was involved with the drafting of Obamacare, they were in on the closed-door sessions and put together Obamacare. My guess is that they were given this plum. United Healthcare was given this assurance that if they go along with this Obamacare deal, and there were probably aspects to it United Healthcare didn't like, that not only would they make sure that they'd get a lot of customers going through their door, but they'd also get to do some other stuff to make some money doing something else for the government. And in this case, United Healthcare got to put together the Obamacare website. So that's why President Obama doesn't want to take anything for free, because this Obamacare is fraught with behind-the-scenes inside deals to friends of Barry Obama. But this story was in the Denver Post by Allison Sherry, and it says the head of Colorado State Health Exchange has asked for a end-of-year raise and bonus, even though the website has enrolled fewer than half the people who were supposed to purchase health insurance through December. Patty Fontenue, president and CEO of Connect for Health Colorado, currently earns $190,000 a year. Her chief operating officer and chief financial officer earn $164,000 a year. Now, these are just regular old state government employees. The salaries are supported by taxpayers. Fontenue received a $5,000 raise in 2000 and is eligible for an annual bonus of up to 10%, with salary increases of 3%, according to documents from Connect for Healthcare. And when in the hell did government employees start getting bonuses? That just totally blows my organic computer. The CEO's salary increase was discussed among organization board of directors in the October session. And it says, given the poor performance for the past 2 months of enrollments, I think it's incredibly audacious, love that word, for the executive director to request a salary increase. But they have no shame. Public employees have no shame. Why do they care? But anyways, the projections are way off. It said the projected enrollment numbers for Colorado this month, even on the low end, were only 22,000 people. On the high end, health officials projected that more than 61,000 people would have purchased health insurance by the end of December. So they're not even close. I mean, they're not even in the same ballpark. It says that the Colorado Exchange is supported through a blend of federal grants totaling $177 million that could run through mid-2016. I mean, these numbers are unbelievable. Even on the state level of a little state like Colorado. And see, the thing is, man, just think of all these jobs. I mean, not only did Obamacare create 150 brand new government agencies, each individual state had to set up their own government agency that dovetails with the feds. And look at the salaries they make. Unbelievable. And bonuses. Government employees getting bonuses. Ay, ay, ay. So that's your local story. I did actually look at the Gunnison Country Times, since this is Local Friday, even though I don't know what day it is. But we only have 10 minutes left. Let me see here. Games Muslims play. Oh. You know, it's times like this when I realize that just because you went to an Ivy League school doesn't mean you're very smart. And this comes from your daily dose of conservatism. As we reported on Monday, President Obama now is pivoted and he's out there repackaging Obamacare for the people, so he's back on the campaign trail. And this story comes by way of the Washington Examiner. It says, during today's White House Youth Summit, President Obama called on young people to do whatever they can to promote his signature health care law. Oh, I lost my place. I was laughing. Okay, including plying with their customers with cheap booze. This is the president speaking here. He says, if you're a bartender, have a happy hour. End of quote, Obama said as the crowd laughed. And he continued to say, and also probably get health insurance because a lot of people don't have it. Obama was encouraging young people who are student body presidents or workers at nonprofit organizations to help get people enrolled. He said, if you've got a radio show, spread the word on the air. Well, I'm right here for you, Mr. Obama. Obama called on young people's sense of patriotism to join the cause. The president said, the bottom line is that I'm going to need you. The country needs you, Obama said, reminding them that their friends and peers might not know the benefits of Obamacare. And we actually have the president here, so why don't we bring him on? Mr. President, again, welcome to the Trailer Park Profit Show. Boy, we're waiting with bated breath. We want to hear about how happy hours and Obamacare are related.
If you work at a nonprofit, open your doors and use your email list to help people learn the facts. If you've got a radio show, spread the word on air. If you're a bartender, have a happy hour. And also probably get health insurance, because a lot of bartenders don't have it.
I mean, he was probably being flippant and all of that. No, it's just kind of funny. All right, moving on. And here's kind of a unquestionable truth, if you will. If you tell a lie once, and all your truths become questionable. And that's kind of what happened with President Obama. I mean, if you lie once, and you know this in your own life, if your brother or somebody at work lies to you, then everything they say after that is suspect. And most people understand this. This is the kind of thing you'd probably learn from your dad and mom. And why maybe President Obama lies all the time, because he never had any kind of parental involvement with his upbringing to learn just the basic tenets of being a good human being on this planet. Oh, this is kind of funny. We don't have time for this, but MSNBC host Ed Schultz, he claims that God supports Obamacare. Oh, this is a good story. So we wish we had time for that. Let's see. Oh, this is kind of an interesting story. And I didn't really know this is an issue, although I read this article from front to back. And I kind of had the feeling that maybe these people don't have all their facts together. But maybe this is, in fact, a discussion that's going on in the medical community. And it's from theconservativeinfidel.com. And it's written by Chelsea Schilling via the World Net Daily. And the question is, should homosexual men, a group with the highest HIV infection rates in the nation, be allowed to donate blood? And that's a federal question, evidently. And I was always of the mind that if a blood bank took blood, that, you know, they may ask you some questions. Do you have cancer? A lot of times they don't want people to donate blood if they had cancer. And I think they ask you whether or not you have risky sex. And I would think, as a matter of course, that healthcare entities would test blood for at least AIDS and hepatitis and some other diseases as well, just as a matter of course. If you're a hospital and you gave someone some tainted blood, which has happened before, and the patient wound up getting AIDS, I see some real problems. You're going to get yourself drug into court. But at any rate, this is a question that's floating out there. I actually have seen this a couple other places, but, you know, I would think that they test blood already. And, in fact, one of my friends, Carl Saden, says they do test the blood. And he ought to know. I don't know, it's just kind of, I don't know why, I just thought it was an interesting. Oh, North Carolina officials have lost track of 3,400 criminal aliens. This is from the examiner.com. State of North Carolina currently has 10,798 absconders from probation and or parole. And of that 10,798, 3,400 are criminal aliens. I mean, why do we pay these people? I mean, you would think it would be a no-brainer, but not necessarily. Oh, I like this. It's called Rotten Cards. You know, they have these cards now where they have these little pithy sort of sayings. I really like this one. This is from Being Liberal, and it shows three women standing together talking to each other, and the headline is, I don't judge people based on color, race, religion, sexuality, gender, ability, or size. I base it on whether or not they are an asshole. And I really believe with every sense of my being that most people out there, they don't really care about your color, race, religion, sexuality, gender, ability, or size. You know, they really judge each person on the individual, and in large part it's whether or not you're an asshole or not. It doesn't have anything to do with any of those other qualifiers of religion or color, race. But it's in the interest of the progressive socialist movement to have as many of us as possible believe that that's in fact the motivation for a lot of us people that are against what's going on in Washington, D.C.
90 seconds
D.C. right now. All right, everybody. Drizzle, drazzle, drizzle, drone. Time for this prophet to go home. Thanks a lot for being here. I got to get out of here. We'll see you on Monday for Sunday on Monday. Adios.